What if I told the very thing you thought would break you was actually building you? That the pain you've been running from is the reason you're still standing stronger than ever. Stay with me. Because once you see your past differently, your future will never look the same. Pain is often misunderstood. Most people try to avoid it, escape it, numb it, or pretend it isn't there. But the truth is, pain isn't the enemy. It's the teacher. It shows up in our lives to break through the noise and demand our attention. When everything feels comfortable, we cruise. We don't question. We don't reflect. But when something hurts, when a relationship ends, when we're betrayed, when we fail at something that mattered, we're forced to stop and ask the hard questions we've been avoiding. Pain has this raw honesty to it. It doesn't sugarcoat. It doesn't let you lie to yourself. It forces you to look in the mirror and face whatever you've been running from. Sometimes that pain points directly to a truth you were too scared to acknowledge, that you stayed somewhere along, trusted the wrong person, ignored the red flags, silenced your gut. Pain reminds you that you're human. It humbles you. And as much as it stings, there's wisdom inside it that nothing else can teach you. You can read all the books, listen to all the podcasts, attend every seminar. But until you've been cracked open by something real, until you felt that H in your chest at 2 a.m., when no one's there to fix it for you, you don't truly understand what growth feels like. Pain is the catalyst for change. It makes you question your values, your relationships, your patterns, and even your identity. It strips away the masks we wear for others and off ones we wear for ourselves. That breakdown you experience, that emotional unraveling, that's not weakness. That's the beginning of becoming. It's your body and mind trying to process, to realign, to rebuild. And rebuilding doesn't happen in perfection. It happens in the rubble, in the shaking voice, in the moments when you think you can't go on. But you people who've built true emotional strength didn't get there by avoiding pain. They got there by sitting with it, by asking it, what are you here to show me? They stopped seeing it as punishment, started seeing it as instruction, because every pain carries a message. Maybe it's teaching you boundaries. Maybe it's pushing you to stand up for yourself. Maybe it's asking you to finally let go of something you've outgrown. The message, it only reveals itself when you stop numbing out and start listening. That kind of self-awareness doesn't come from comfort. It's earned, and pain is the price. But that buys you perspective. It wakes you up. It makes you realize what actually matters, who actually shows up, and what you're actually capable of surviving. Pain clears the clutter. It exposes what was fake and shines a light on what's real. It brings your priorities into focus in a way that no motivational quote ever could. And most importantly, it gives you empathy, not just for others, but for yourself. The kind of deep, honest empathy that only comes from having been in the dark and learning how to navigate without a map. Growth doesn't happen when everything is going right. It doesn't show up when life is calm, when the schedule is easy, when the path is clear. Real growth, the kind that changes who are at your core, only happens when you're uncomfortable, uncertain, and stretched to your limits. It's in those moments when you feel like you're drowning, like nothing is working, like the world is testing you more than you think you can handle. That's where growth begins, because comfort doesn't challenge you. It keeps you exactly where you are. And the truth is, most people don't grow because they're too afraid to be uncomfortable. Struggle is the pressure that shapes you. It's the resistance that builds your emotional muscles. When you face hardship, you're being forced to confront the parts of yourself that still need work. The fear, the self-doubt, the procrastination, the insecurity. Those don't show up when things are easy. They hide. But the second you hit a wall, they all come to the surface. That's the opportunity. That's the moment you decide whether to give up or dig in, whether to shrink or rise, whether to repeat the same old patterns or finally break free from them. And yes, it's painful. Yes, it's messy, but that's what transformation feels like. Think about how we build strength in our bodies. You don't get stronger by lifting light things. You get stronger by pushing against something heavy, by breaking down your muscles so they rebuild even tougher. The same goes for your mindset, your heart, your identity. When life throws you something hard, something you don't think you can handle, you find out what you're really made of. You start discovering how capable you actually are. You start accessing parts of your character that you didn't know existed. And that only happens because you were tested. Sometimes the struggle lasts longer than we want it to. Sometimes it doesn't make sense while we're in it. But over time, you stay in the fight. If you keep showing up, you start to notice a shift. You start to become more patient, more focused, more self-aware. You stop reacting to everything emotionally and start responding with clarity. You learn how to regulate your thoughts instead of spiraling. You learn how to stand on your own without needing someone else to save you. And every single time you get through something hard, you add another layer to your strength. You build emotional armor, not the kind that makes you cold or closed off, but the kind that protects your peace without sacrificing your heart. Struggle isn't a detour from your path. It is the path. The hard days, the failures, the times you felt like giving up. Those are the moments that shape you more than anything else. That's where your confidence is built. That's where resilience is born. That's where you realize you don't need perfect circumstances to become powerful. You just need to keep going, even when it hurts, even when you're scared, even when the outcome is still uncertain. Because when you keep showing up for yourself in the struggle, you're building a version of you that's unshakable. It's easy to start believing that your pain, your past, or your trauma is who you are. When you go through something heavy, when you're betrayed, abandoned, humiliated, or broken, it can feel like your identity gets permanently tied to that experience. The moment was so loud, so consuming, so unforgettable that it becomes the lens through which you start seeing yourself. But the truth is, you are what happened to you. You are not your worst day, your biggest regret, or your deepest wound. You are not the failure, the rejection, the diagnosis, or the mistake. You are the person who survived it. You are the one still standing after it tried to knock you out. There's a difference between being shaped by pain and being defined by it. Pain can shape your perspective and your values and even your direction in life, but it does not have to become your identity. The moment you start labeling yourself by your trauma, saying, I am broken, I am not enough, I am what they said I was, you give your power away. You start living a smaller life, a smaller match the size of your pain, instead of living a fuller life to reflect your strength. And what's dangerous is that the more you repeat those stories in your mind, the more you start believing them as facts. But they're not. They're wounds that haven't healed yet. And healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means you no longer allow the wound to control your voice, your choices, or your future. So many people carry pain like it's proof of who they are. But pain is not proof of identity. It's proof that you felt deeply, that you lived fully, that you cared enough to be hurt. And that makes you human, not broken, unworthy, just human. The pain may explain part of your story, but it does not get to write your future unless you hand it the pen. And you don't have to. You can take it back. You can say, yes, that happened. Yes, it changed me. But it doesn't get to own me. Your identity isn't found in what happened to you. It's found in what you do next. Do you keep carrying the weight? Or do you finally lay it down? Do you keep playing small because of what someone said or did? Or do you decide that your worth isn't negotiable? Every day, you get to choose whether past will be your anchor or your launch pad. And choose doesn't mean pretending the pain didn't happen. It means acknowledging it, grieving it, learning from it, and then refusing to let it hold the microphone anymore. Who you are is bigger than any moment you've been through. You are the strength that got you through the night. You are the courage it took to get out of bed. You are the quiet decision to keep going even when everything in you wanted to give up. You're not your scars. You're the soul that kept healing beneath them. There are days when getting out of bed feels like a battle. Days when the weight in your chest is so heavy, it makes breathing feel like effort. Days when the thoughts in your head are so loud that silence doesn't bring peace. It brings pressure. And it's in those exact moments when everything feels overwhelming, when your energy is gone, when nothing makes sense. That's when showing up matters most. Not perfectly, not powerfully, just barely, just enough. Because that choice to keep going, even when it hurts, is the most powerful act of self-respect there is. It's easy to stay consistent when you're motivated going your way, when life is cooperating. But that's not when your character is built. Your character is built in the middle of the mess. When your heart's been shattered and your mind is exhausted and you've got nothing left in the tank, and you still get up and try again. Maybe not for the world, maybe not even for the people around you, but for yourself, for that part of you that refuses to let the pain win. You don't have to know what the outcome will be. You don't have to have some 5-step plan. You just have to keep showing up, one decision at a time, one breath at a time. Because even if the only thing you do today is refuse to give up, that's enough progress. That's building resilience brick by brick, even if it doesn't feel like yet. And no, it won't be linear. Some days you'll take a step forward and feel proud. Other days you'll stumble or even fall flat. That's okay. That's part of the process. What matters is that you don't stay down forever. There is something unshakable starts to develop inside you when you keep showing up, even when everything inside you wants to quit. It's not about being strong all the time. It's about being stubborn enough to not let the struggle write your story. Every time you show up without motivation, every time you push through the mental fog, every time you say, not today, to the voice in your head that tells you to give up, you're training your mind to believe in your own strength. You're proving to yourself that your pain, no matter how loud, does not get the final say. This isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about being brave enough to live through the uncomfortable, about trusting that even when you can't see the change, something inside you is shifting. You're getting stronger, more focused, more aligned. And maybe you won't see it right away. Maybe it'll take weeks or months. But one day you'll realize that the very things you thought would break you are what shaped you. And it all started with those hard days, the ones you thought didn't matter, the ones you wanted to skip, the ones where you showed up anyway, even when it felt like you had nothing left. Pain doesn't just hurt, it reveals. When you're in the middle of something hard, when life knocks you down and everything you counted on seems to fall apart, something shifts, the noise fades, the distractions disappear. What's left is the truth. Pain has a way of stripping things down to the core. It makes you see yourself, your choices, your relationships, and your priorities with a brutal kind of clarity. The masks you wore, the lies you told yourself, the stories you clung to, they don't survive the fire. Pain burns them away. And what's left, even if it's raw and uncomfortable, is real. In those dark, heavy moments, the truth shows up in ways it never could when life was easy. You begin to realize who really shows up for you. Not just the ones who are around during the highs, but the ones who sit with you in the lows. Pain filters out the noise. It exposes the people who only love the version of you that was convenient. It shows you who's willing to hold space for your mess, not just your success. It's not always pretty, but it's honest. You stop wasting energy on trying to impress or please. You stop pretending to be fine when you're not. You learn that honesty, even when it's painful, is a form of freedom. And it's not just about other people. Pain forces you to get real with yourself. You see the patterns you've been avoiding. You notice how often you silence your own voice to keep the peace. You recognize the ways you've been abandoning yourself just to feel accepted or safe. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's the gift. Pain reveals where you've been living on autopilot. It shows you what you've been tolerating for too long. It reminds you that time is precious and alignment matters. It wakes you up to the kind of life you truly want. Not the one you were told to want, but the one that actually means something to you. Clarity doesn't always come with calm. Sometimes it comes with chaos, with loss, with failure. but that doesn't make it any less powerful. Pain puts a spotlight on what you've been avoiding. And while that can feel overwhelming, it's also the beginning of growth. Because once you see things clearly, you can't keep living the same way. You either rise or retreat. You either accept it or change it. And neither option is easy, but both are honest. Pain doesn't lie. It doesn't sugarcoat. It doesn't let you pretend. That's why it's so powerful. It forces a confrontation with your reality, with your choices, with your fears. And while it may feel like everything's falling apart, what's really happening is a reordering, a revealing, a breaking down of illusions so something more real can be built in their place. Pain clears out what no longer belongs. It makes room for truth, even if that truth is uncomfortable. It pushes you to stop settling, to stop pretending, to stop hiding from the life that's actually meant for you. Healing isn't linear, and it definitely isn't glamorous. It's not a clean, Instagram-worthy journey with soft lighting and peaceful music playing in the background. Healing is messy. It's crying when you least expect it, over things you thought you were done feeling. It's waking up some days feeling strong and centered, and then breaking down the next without any clear reason. It's sitting in silence with your own thoughts and learn to be with yourself when all you've ever done is run from the pain. It's not a straight path, and it's never easy, but it's one of the most important journeys you'll ever take. When you're truly healing, you're doing deep internal work that most people don't see. On the outside, your life might look the same. You might still be going to work, taking care of responsibilities, smiling at the world. But inside, everything is shifting. You're reprogramming how you respond to triggers. You're breaking down years of emotional patterns and unlearning behaviors that were rooted in survival. That kind of work doesn't come with applause or instant validation. It's quiet, and sometimes it feels like no one understands how much energy it takes just to keep going. But you keep going anyway, and that's where real transformation begins. Healing means facing the parts of yourself that hurt the most, the memories, the guilt, the shame, and not just facing them, but sitting with them, listening to them and learning from them. It's not about forgetting what happened. It's about giving a place in your story without letting it control the entire narrative. It's about taking the pain out of the driver's seat and putting yourself back in control. And that takes time. There's no shortcut. There's no deadline. Healing demands patience, and in a world that glorifies quick fixes, that's one of the hardest lessons to accept. Some days you'll feel like you're making huge progress. You'll feel lighter, more grounded, more hopeful. Other days, you'll wonder if you're moving backward, if anything's really changing. But healing doesn't mean you never feel the pain again. It means you learn how to hold it differently. It doesn't crush you the way it once did. It doesn't define you. It doesn't silence you. You develop tools, boundaries, and emotional strength that allow you to carry the pain with grace instead of letting it consume you. And yes, it hurts. Deep healing always does. It requires honesty and vulnerability and a willingness to confront things you'd rather avoid. But the hurt isn't a sign that you're doing it wrong. It's a sign that you're finally allowing yourself to feel the things you buried for too long. It's the necessary discomfort that comes with shedding old skin and stepping into a new version of yourself. It's painful, but it's also liberating, because when you stay with the process, when you commit to yourself through the tears, through the anger, through the exhaustion, you begin to experience a freedom that no one else can give you. There comes a moment when you realize that no matter what's happened to you, no matter how unfair, how painful, or how deeply it wounded you, you still have the power to decide what happens next. That's the turning point. That's when everything begins to shift. Because up until then, it's easy to believe you're stuck, that your circumstances are in control, that the pain is permanent, that the people who hurt you or the moments that broke you get to keep writing your story. But they don't. They only keep writing it if you hand them the pen. And the truth is, the pen has always been yours. There's incredible power in choice. Not the big, dramatic, life-changing choices, but the small, quiet ones. The decision to get out of bed when you rather stay under the covers. The decision to breathe through the anxiety instead of running from it. The decision to say no when you've spent your whole life saying just to be liked. These moments seem insignificant, but they're not. They're where your power lies. They're the building blocks of a new reality, one where you are no longer a prisoner of what happened, but a conscious creator of what's next. We often wait for someone to save us, for someone to understand us so deeply they take the pain away. But no one can choose for you. No one can heal you. No one can rewrite your story unless you're the one willing to take that first step. And you don't have to know exactly where it's leading. You just have to know that staying stuck in pain is not your only option. The moment you realize you have a say in how you carry your past, that's the moment you start to take your power back. It doesn't mean pretending the pain didn't happen. It doesn't mean forcing yourself to be okay when you're not. It means owning your story without letting it own you. It means standing in the middle of your mess and deciding you're still worthy of healing, of joy, of peace. That decision doesn't always come with certainty. Most of the terrifying, choosing a new way forward means letting go of familiar pain. And sometimes familiar pain feels safer than the unknown. But just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's right for you. And just because something happened to you doesn't mean it defines your future. You get to choose how you show up today. You get to choose what you focus on, what you believe, and what you allow to take up space in your mind. You get to decide whether this chapter is about repeating the past or rising from it. And even if it's just one small decision each day, one act of courage, one boundary honored, one truth spoken, it adds up. That's how change is built. That's how power is reclaimed. Not in one giant leap, but in hundreds of small, intentional choices made in the direction of who you truly want to become. There's a strange moment that happens when you look back on something you would destroy you and realize it didn't. It hurt. It broke you open. It changed everything. But it didn't end you. And in that space where you once only saw darkness, you begin to notice something else's strength, the kind of strength you didn't know you had. The kind that was forged in the fire of pain, in the moments no one else saw, in the nights you cried yourself to sleep and still got up the next day. That strength wasn't built on good days. It was born in survival, in showing up anyway, in rebuilding from rock bottom with nothing but determination and a heartbeat. There's a power that comes from going through the worst and still being able to smile, to love, to dream again. You may not realize it while it's happening. Most of the time, in the middle of pain, all you feel is the heaviness, the confusion, the anger, the H. You think, why is this happening to me? Or how am I supposed to keep going? But time has a way of revealing what pain was really doing. It wasn't just breaking you. It was clearing the space, breaking the illusion, shifting your perspective. Pain takes away what's no longer meant, often before you're ready to let it go. And in that loss, something inside of you gets louder. The part of you that knows you were made for more. The part of you that refuses to stay broken. You begin to realize that your story is different now. Not just because of what happened, but because of who you became in the aftermath. The version of you before the pain didn't have the same depth, the same compassion, the same ability to sit with others in their own struggle. Pain softens you in some ways and sharpens you in others. It makes you more human, more awake, real. It strips away the need for perfection and replaces it with purpose. And you start to carry yourself differently, not because you've forgotten the pain, but because you learn to carry it with strength. One day, the very things you thought were ruining your life will become the reasons you're proud of who you are. You'll see how the heartbreak taught you boundaries, how the failure redirected your path, how the loneliness brought you back to yourself. You'll see that what you went through wasn't the end. It was a turning point. And when you finally reach that moment of understanding, something shifts. You no longer wish it hadn't a pain. You no longer hate the pain. You start to see it for what it was the moment your old life cracked just enough to let your real strength shine through. There's a version of you now only exists because you kept going when it would have been easier to quit, because you faced the storm